This is a live picture from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, where technicians take a signal that is 20 billion times weaker than the power level of a digital watch and turn it into cosmic history. And this is what the Voyager 2 spacecraft is seeing almost 3 billion miles away, an accomplishment that has impressed even the most ardent NASA scientists. The views of Neptune and its bizarre moon Triton have been called astounding. Good morning, I'm Lou Waters reporting live from Pasadena, where the work has continued throughout the night. Joining me as astronomer and member of the imaging team, Carl Sagan. That last farewell picture, that pink crescent of Triton, this last picture show should get an Academy Award.
I agree. I think it's not just great science. There's some fantastic art here, and that's part of the reason for its appeal. We are looking at the frontier of the solar system, the last planet, because Pluto's inside Neptune, and the pictures that we have seen of Neptune, of its big moon Triton, of the ring arcs are just astounding. It couldn't be better. The level of excitement is the highest I've ever seen here.
And we will see a lot of it in this next hour. It's an incredible story. And in this hour, we will spin the tale of Voyager 2. Not since 1969 and man's first footsteps on the moon has space captured the nation's imagination to this degree. Voyager's 12-year mission has rewritten the textbooks. Carl Sagan is here. It's been an astounding past 24 hours. Why don't you take us through just a bit of it?
Well, we've been in observatory phase for months, seeing Neptune as a slowly growing from a dot to something filling the television screen and more. Neptune itself, if we can take a look at some of the pictures from Neptune, is a beautiful, austere blue world. All the features you see here are in very rapid motion. We are looking at a world of clouds and gas. The surface, if any, is far below. That dark feature you see at lower left, we call by a spiffy scientific word, it's called a great dark spot, and and the next picture will show a close-up of it. It seems to be deep. You can see the higher altitude white cirrus clouds. They're made of methane. We have no idea what's deep down there. This is a world whose the motions in it, the general circulation of its atmosphere, are important for many reasons, one of which is people trying to understand the Earth's atmosphere, climate, circulation, have a new world to test the theories on.
Is this great dark spot comparable to the great red spot on Jupiter?
It's roughly the same latitude. It has somewhat the same behavior. The great red spot on Jupiter is high. The great dark spot is low. There's a lot of things we have to figure out about that.
How about the persistence of these storms?
The great red spot of Jupiter has been seen since the 17th century. So that's a storm that's been around for hundreds of years. And the great dark spot probably is in that same category, but we don't yet know. Any
surprises for you here when you see these pictures, or was it what you expected? Which camp are you in there?
Lou, the experience of the entire 12-year mission of Voyager 1 and 2 is that we never are smart enough to predict what we're going to see. Everything is, nature is more subtle than we are. Maybe we can take a look at Triton. This moon, as you can see, has remarkable color. It's a methane ice world. The next picture shows a set of details on the surface, a wonderful flooded basin, and the next picture shows another view of topography that is different from anywhere in the solar system that we have yet to understand.
Why the intense interest in the geological history of Triton?
Well, for one thing, we've seen about 50 worlds in the solar system. This one is different from any we've seen. It's based on a different kind of physics. It's a methane ice world, and it will enhance our understanding of the entire panoply of moons in the outer solar system.
And as we continue our hour-long look at Voyager, we're going to be throwing a lot of initials at you. Hopefully, we'll always be telling you what those initials mean. You've already heard IPL, or Image Processing Lab. That's where technicians turn radio signals into something we can show you on television. And although Voyager already is streaking out of the solar system, its signal still is being translated into pictures here in Pasadena. Joining us to talk about what's going on now at IPL is CNN science editor Charles Crawford. Charles, Voyager is well past its encounter with Neptune and Triton. What's left to be done?
Well, we're at Station 9 of the Image Processing Laboratory, and with us is Ray Bambury, the supervisor. And Ray's going to explain for us a little bit about how they get these pictures from the spacecraft and also how you enhance them in color.
Well, the computers that we have here receive these signals, and what they actually receive are shades of gray. And since the spacecraft only sends back pictures in black and white, we have to convert those in color back here. And what we do is we use a display processor to convert those images. As you can see from the next series of pictures, this is what they come back like. And you can see right away that the pictures do not overlay on one another, and the particular planes are misregistered. Now, what we can do here is take these pictures and bring them out in its full color detail by subtle computations inside the computer.
They weren't together because the spacecraft's moving and the planet's rotating.
That's correct. And
okay, now we got them all back together.
that.
Now we've got some very pretty the clouds up there and the dark spot. But what can you do for the scientists as far as even enhancing that more?
Well, as you can see, the dark spot is really not very dark in this particular frame. So one of the things that we can do is what we call a contrast enhancement, and we can bring out subtle little details. As you can see right here, the particular pictures are slowly bringing out the details that are really there.
And you can see that streamer off to the left now that you couldn't see before.
And this is the kind of thing that the computers can do for you.
Can you zoom in on it?
Oh, yes. And if you see this, I'll show you what can happen on the very top frame up here. This is the original dark spot as it was came back in color, and the particular dark spot is not so evident, but at the bottom zoom here you'll see the actual picture come back with a very enhanced area of the dark spot.
Look at that. Why is that so important to the scientists to see it that way?
Because as you can see, the details are just not very bright here, and if you're trying to make interpretations from this kind of data, it's just not there to be able to help you in that endeavor.
Point to some of the specific things you can see in the contrast enhanced picture in the bottom versus the top.
Well, as you can see right here, this streamer that's out in front does not actually show very well in the natural color, but in this enhanced version, you can see the extra details which give you the ability to start looking at this over a period of time and seeing how those streamers change with time.
And again, these aren't real colors. These aren't what it really looks like on Neptune.
Well, the colors are, this one up here is about as close as you're going to get, although, of course, the exact thing depends upon how the display processor shows it to your eye and how your eyes interpret it.
Okay, thanks very much, Ray. We're going to come back and see some pictures of Triton later on. Back to you, Lou.
Okay, Charles, it's been 12 years since Voyager 2 left the launch pad at Cape Canaveral, Florida, and although much of what we've been seeing over the past several days has been considered the highlight of a very successful mission, other history has been made as well. Carl Sagan joins us once again. Carl, how did Voyager get from ground zero to 3 billion miles away?
I like how you say billion. It happened like this.
The solar system has been described as 4 giant planets plus debris. The debris is on the inside, little worlds of rock and metal. We live on one of those worlds, a blue one called Earth. And we've been sending spacecraft to the nearby pieces of debris. But Voyager is our first attempt at detailed examination of those 4 giant planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, and their rings and their moons. The 2 Voyager spacecraft are robot explorers, venturing into the outer solar system, a realm still too distant and dangerous for humans. Launched from Earth in 1977, they arrived at Jupiter in 1979 and Saturn in 1980 and 1981. The passage by each planet gravitationally accelerated the spacecraft towards the next planet. in a meticulous game of cosmic billiards. Voyager 2 then went on from Saturn to encounter Uranus in 1986 and has now arrived in the Neptune system. All in all, 100,000 pictures have been returned and a wealth of other data. Dozens of new worlds have been found and fundamental discoveries made at each of the ports of call. At Jupiter, we examined the Great Red Spot, a storm as big as a dozen Earths, and the planet's multicolored clouds whose composition is still almost entirely unknown. Jupiter's invisible magnetic field and its deadly trapped radiation belts are the largest in the solar system. And Io, a world erupting with active volcanoes and paved with sulfur. An enormous donut of sulfur and sodium is blown out from Io and trapped in Jupiter's magnetic field. Then there's Jupiter's moon Callisto, whose surface preserves the evidence of an ancient rain of impacting worlds that destroyed whatever landforms were there before. And Europa, a world with just maybe an underground ocean. Then it was on to Saturn, where we examined the trillions of snowballs that make up its intricate ring structure, and the ring's ghostly and transient spokes. Mimas, a world so close in that Saturn fills much of its sky. The wildly tumbling, hamburger-shaped moon, Hyperion. The Voyager spacecraft scrutinized Triton, a moon with an atmosphere thicker than Earth's, in which today organic molecules are being synthesized, as happened on Earth 4 billion years ago, the steps that led to the origin of life. 5 years later, we arrived at Uranus, strangely lying on its side, perhaps due to the impact of some massive, long-gone world. And rings around Uranus as dark as soot. We gawked at Miranda, which some scientists have called the most bizarre moon in the solar system, so strangely made that it seems to speak to us of a time when worlds were shattered and reformed. And now, Voyager 2 is here at Neptune, a slam-bang finish to the grand tour.
Image processing. More about that with Carl Sagan when we come back.
The spirit of family.
For a half-century and more, business travelers have depended on United Airlines to get them to their most important meetings. United, rededicated to giving you the service you deserve. Come fly the friendly skies.
Now get the Christian Science Monitor, the Pulitzer Prize-winning daily newspaper for 1 month free when you order 2 months at just $9 per month. Call now and get a bonus month absolutely free. Call 1-800-257-1257 now.
Parents, are you saving for your child's college tuition? Learn about some college prepayment plans that could save you a bundle. Pay now, learn later on CNN's Your Money, 3:30 Eastern today.
We are back. You are seeing pictures from the Deep Space Network here at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena as we get some of the latest and most dramatic pictures from the Voyager flyby of Neptune and the dramatic moon Triton. And back to the issue at hand, we're live again, and we're talking about the imaging of these pictures as they come in to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Carl Sagan has moved to the building adjacent to where we are. He's in the imaging area. And Carl, tell us exactly what's going on there.
Well, there is a sense of subdued excitement as a set of new pictures is coming in. These are the highest resolution, finest detailed pictures of Triton, but it's interspersed with other pictures of lower resolution. Here's Larry Soderblom, the deputy team leader. Hi, Larry. What do you see? Anything special?
Well, we're just about to see the next high-resolution view. The area we're looking at is in the vicinity of those large frozen caldera lake-like things.
Great. One of the big disputes on Triton these days is how much atmosphere is there. We should resolve this one shortly. If there's a lot of nitrogen in the atmosphere ought to be pretty dense. If it's mainly methane, it ought to be pretty diffuse. In any case, it's a very thin atmosphere by terrestrial standards. The geology has been spectacularly interesting, although the pictures that are up right now are not that apparently interesting. As I say, the good ones are interspersed with the duller ones.
Well,
Larry?
depends on what to each his own. These are wide-angle color images.
Yes.
And so that's the color information which will be added to the high-resolution data to...
Eventually, these will be processed, as we saw with Mr. Banbury before, into very interesting color pictures, but now they are each in a single color, have not yet been composited into color. Yes?
Along the way, when we have problems with radio frequencies and you had to work with just this small amount of power, did you not go through some process where the amount of images coming back here was reduced somewhat or changed somewhat? Did that process give you less than what you would have desired as far as images back here?
Lou, one remarkable part of this mission is that the spacecraft were designed only to work out to Jupiter and Saturn. Uranus and Neptune are kind of bonus. Because they're so far from the sun, it's comparatively very dark out there. So you have to have long time exposures, but then that blurs the image. And the spacecraft engineers have perfectly compensated for that problem by moving the cameras at just the right speed to compensate for the motion of the spacecraft. So in fact, on some levels, the spacecraft is working better at Neptune and Uranus than it did at Jupiter and Saturn.
All right. When we come back, the men and women of Voyager 2 and the human side of a robotic adventure.
Are the stars out tonight? I don't know if it's cloudy.
The BMW 325i convertible. Along with the sun, moon, and stars, you get a car worth driving.
The pain is in the back of the head, and then, like I say, in the temples, and it'll pound. Being a fireman is stressful, so I'd say stress could bring that on real easily.
Today, Jim Dane is trying extra-strength Tylenol gel caps. For pain like his, why take aspirin or ibuprofen when nothing works better than Tylenol gel caps?
I feel great. Yeah, I feel back to normal, ready to go. It's gone.
Extra-strength Tylenol gel caps. In the real world of everyday pain, nothing works better.
Excuse me, could you put down that spray cleaner and those paper towels, please? Hi, I'm Spiffet's Moist Cleaning Towels, and I've cut the work down to a wipe.
What about us?
Okay, we've cut the work down to a wipe. Spiffets are tough towels and powerful cleaners all in one. See, I've got glass cleaner inside, so I'm Spiffets for glass. And one towel goes a long way.
How long?
Very long. And there's Spiffets for the bath, right here. Multi-purpose Spiffets.
Hi, folks.
Spiffets for furniture.
Yeah, sure, you betcha.
Spiffet scouring towels.
Yo!
So give us a try. We've really got our act together.
New Spiffet's Moist Towels. They cut the work down to a wipe.
In 5 distinct personalities.
Subscribe to the Sporting News. You'll get 29 issues delivered to your mailbox for 4 payments of only $4.99. Call now 1-800-257-1257. That's 1-800-257-1257. The Sporting News.
We're back with our live coverage of the Voyager mission with a look at what's happening just below our CNN anchor booth location. We're in the middle of the campus of the California Institute of Technology here in Pasadena, where there still is an hour or so until we'll see the first hint of dawn. As Voyager 2 speeds out of the solar system, much of the most important data of the mission is just coming in, and that's why we're up in these wee hours of the morning. The technology of this whole thing is something to behold. If Las Vegas odds makers would have had to pay off the optimists that honestly felt as though this mission would be as successful as it is, there would be a few rich people walking around NASA today. The fact is, Voyager beat the odds, incredible odds. And although in any mission of this type there must be a certain degree of luck involved, the human factor cannot be underestimated. Many of the world's journalists have broken down, packed up, and already left the jet propulsion site here in Pasadena, which is now getting back to normal. It was a great story left to the members of the Voyager team. This has been more than a spacecraft passing in the night. It has been a way of life. CNN correspondent Dan Blackburn takes a look at 2 key players on the Voyager team.
Voyager has been part of Charles Colhaze's life for the past 14 years.
Well, it began back in 1975 when I actually joined the project. It was a job I had always wanted to have, to be a mission analysis and engineering manager for a flight project. So I basically have been on Voyager for a little over 14 years. And it's been the greatest experience of my professional career. I wouldn't change a thing. If I had it to do over again, I would do exactly the same thing.
Colhaze and his team charted the flight path that would take Voyager on its grand tour of the outer solar system. They had to choose from 10,000 possible trajectories.
The launch vehicle we used, a launch vehicle called the Titan Centaur, had enough capability to have used any of perhaps 40 different launch days and many weeks of different arrival dates. That is, it could access a large set of possibilities. And the object was to try to find the best of all these configurations. And what best meant was that each of the Voyager flight paths would have the largest number of close encounters with the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. You see, the planets only line up in favorable positions around the sun every so often to do gravity assist flybys, that is where one planet sends you on to the next. Now, if you're just going from Earth to Jupiter to Saturn, those alignments happen about every 20 years. But if you want to go on to Uranus and Neptune, an opportunity known as the Grand Tour, that only happens once every 176 years. So when we were going through these 10,000 trajectory possibilities, we said, look, we've got to endow Voyager 2 with the ability to go on and fly the Grand Tour. I think all of the encounters return the maximum science possible, there's no doubt in my mind.
The worries of the mission design team are just about over. The spacecraft successfully entered the Neptune system and safely made its closest approach to the giant planet and its unusual moon, Triton. Now it is on toward the vast sea of interstellar space. But for other project teams, the work of poring over data and pictures has just begun. Every weekday morning, Candace Hansen, mother, drops 3-year-old Christy off at her daycare center. Minutes later, her mind is billions of miles away as she studies pictures of worlds that very few other human eyes have seen.
I'm a space photographer. I figure out where to point the cameras at what time, with what filters and what exposures.
As the experiment representative for the Voyager Imaging Science Team, Hansen has spent the last 12 years working with 20 colleagues from institutions all over the country. Hansen's job is to help decide how Voyager should take its pictures to meet specific science objectives.
Starting in December, we started taking images of Neptune. And the reason was partly just to get our exposure times right, because we don't know that much about Neptune, and especially from the ground, where it's very small in Earth-based telescopes. The most exciting moment of that time was finding our great dark spot. And we were not really sure that with our cameras, which are in the visible wavelengths of light, that we would see any contrast. And to see something that large and that similar to perhaps the great red spot on Jupiter was incredibly exciting.
Like the rest of the Voyager family, Hansen has her favorite encounter and her favorite pictures.
Discovering the volcanoes on Io and discovering that Jupiter had a ring, that was tremendous. I think that the part of the fun of encounters is knowing that we're going to be surprised. At Saturn, we didn't think we'd see any detail in the rings because we wouldn't be able to resolve individual ring particles, and we didn't even conceive that there could be the radial structure that there is or the spokes. We just didn't even imagine. Our imaginations are too small. And so what I'm looking forward to the most at Neptune is being surprised. It's like, okay, what's Neptune going to have that we never would have anticipated?
Charlie Colhayes, Candy Hansen, and all the members of the Voyager team consider themselves a privileged group who have had the good fortune to be part of one of the greatest adventures of our time.
The spirit of family.
It's your thing. Do what you wanna do. I can't tell you who to sock it to. It's your thing.
Pearl knows in today's world there's no excuse for having only one pair of glasses. Because now when you buy one pair with the Pearl coupon, you get a second pair free.
I used to take ibuprofen. Ibuprofen irritated my stomach sometimes. When I went to my doctor told me that Tylenol would not cause the stomach irritation that ibuprofen can. He recommended that I start using Tylenol, and I went to Tylenol. I got very good results. I got relief from my headache.
Debbie Eckert trusts Tylenol. Its pain reliever is in a class by itself.
I'm not going to experiment with any other types of pain relief medications.
Robert Redford hosts an international meeting of the minds, U.S. and Soviet scientists fighting a common enemy, global warming and the greenhouse effect. It's a global glasnost on CNN's Future Watch, 4:30 Eastern today.
This is the Deep Space Network at the Jet Propulsion Lab. We'll be talking to the Voyager project manager, Norm Haynes, when we come back.
Imagine a dispassionate and very patient observer watching the Earth over its entire 4.5 billion year history. An occasional meteor might be seen falling onto the Earth, but almost nothing would ever be seen leaving it. Then, in 1957, something began to change. An object rose off the surface to orbit the Earth. Then another, and another. Soon the orbits of these tiny machines were enveloping the Earth like a ball of yarn. Other little machines began to break free of the Earth's gravity. Some traveled to the hidden far side of the moon. Spacecraft with people in them touched down on the moon and returned. Now the inner solar system was ours to explore. Machines were dispatched to fly by and orbit the neighboring planets. A flotilla of small ships was sent out to intercept a comet. Others were launched on epic voyages to the outer solar system and beyond. Something fundamental has changed for us. We have found a way to other worlds for our machines and ourselves. One of our spacecraft has just completed the preliminary reconnaissance of the solar system in which we live. Her name is Voyager, and this is her story.
Hello, I'm Sidney Poitier. I'm here, as many of you are, because I've always been fascinated by what's out there, how the universe is put together. That's why I'm so delighted to be here this evening at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, the headquarters for the Voyager mission and the very place where images from the most distant reaches of the solar system have been arriving for the past week and thrilling scientists and non-scientists alike. I'm here with noted astronomer Carl Sagan, who is a member of the Voyager imaging team. Carl, what's the single most impressive sight you've seen over the past few days in all the new images returning?
That's a tough one, Sidney. There's the new moons, there's the rings, there's Neptune itself. But if I had to choose, I guess it would be the big moon Triton, an ice world with an atmosphere of clouds and stunning surface geology.
Just outside this building, the nerve center for NASA's Deep Space Network, which tracks many of the spaceships Carl mentioned earlier, the men and women who have made Voyager a success are celebrating the triumphant conclusion of Phase 1 of their mission. CNN's science editor, Charles Crawford, who's been covering this story for the past few weeks, is down there in the mall of JPL with some very, very happy people.
Well, the scientists and friends are here to celebrate the completion of Voyager's the 2's grand tour. There's a strong feeling of elation and euphoria here as many continue to ride the crests of a wave that carried the mission to a monumental success less than 72 hours ago. Near midnight, scientists wait anxiously as Voyager 2 races toward the hazardous region of Neptune's ring system. Sensors on board detect plasma waves and the impact of charged particles. But Voyager is unharmed. Brad Smith's imaging team celebrates.
Yeah. We're in? All right.
A steady stream of images begins to pour into JPL as Neptune looms closer. The close encounter is only seconds away.
Science advisors, this is radio time. Neptune closest approach.
Mission controller John Tullius prepares for loss of control telemetry as Voyager passes behind Neptune. Giant antennas of the Deep Space Network in Japan and Australia detect faint signals from Voyager's transmitter, distorted by Neptune's atmosphere.
Receivers are out of lock at this time. Occultation, spacecraft's behind the planet.
We had a 3.5 minute data gap there. Since the reload, we are continuing to record without drive number 1.
Relayed to JPL's radio science group, these transmissions may contain clues about Neptune's atmosphere, its composition and structure. Voyager is on its own for nearly 40 minutes before mission operations regains control. Voyager reports home, all is well.
All of our instruments are functioning per predict.
Pictures continue to speed earthward to the delight and amazement of the assembled scientists. 5 hours later, Voyager flies behind the exotic moon Triton and into its radio shadow. Once again, Voyager is on its own. But Triton occultation is brief and contact is quickly resumed. All systems report go. The radio scientists examine their new data.
Variations reflect interference of the components of the atmosphere with that signal.
Throughout the lab, people gather at data stations to follow the progress of the mission. In the navigation team area, watchers settle in for an all-night vigil.
Is that a rugged surface or what? I don't know what.
Voyager's pictures reveal unique features, pose new questions, evoke speculation.
But I think you're going to find that the stuff up in the north is the stuff that's mantling.
Many of these people have devoted their professional careers to obtaining tonight's results. The grand finale of Voyager's 12-year tour of the outer solar system. And that's what it's been like here at JPL over the past few days. But in some ways, the whole world has been watching and helping also. And we'll show you what it is like to be a part of the Voyager family in Australia, and with a special report from Ushida, Japan, right after this.
I'm an old-fashioned guy. I'm amazed what people call cheeseburgers these days. A piece of meat and some cheese? Not like Wendy's big classic with cheese. A quarter pound of fresh beef, double cheese, double tomatoes, lots of everything on a big toasted Kaiser bun. My daughter Wendy said, Dad, it's like a major totally happening cheeseburger. That's exactly what I would have said.
Now, try Wendy's big classic with double cheese, double tomatoes, and lots of everything else.
Revlon announces a whole new wrinkle in skincare. A moisturizer and the skin firmer in the same bottle. New Clean and Clear Moisture Firm. For the look and feel of younger, firmer skin, Clean and Clear Moisture Firm for the clear advantage.
Mitchum antiperspirant is so effective, you could even skip a day. If you wanted to. Dermatologist tested Mitchum.
When people count on you, count on Post-it brand notes.
Liza Minnelli, Michael York. TBS remembers World War II with Cabaret. 10:15 Eastern on TBS, Tuesday night.
To study one blue planet takes another whole blue planet, planet Earth. Many people look to the future for international space missions, but global cooperation, in fact, is here today, as you can see in the operation of the far-flung network of radio antennas used to receive the radio messages from the distant Voyager spacecraft. The signal from Neptune is so very weak that when it gets back to Earth, it's 20 billion times fainter than the power level needed to operate a modern-day electronic digital watch. to collect this feeble signal, which carries all the information that has given us the astonishing images we have seen, NASA uses antennas around the world. Since the Earth is constantly turning, NASA regularly uses 3 main ground stations in California, near Madrid, Spain, and at Tidbinbilla in Australia to ensure the spacecraft is never out of touch with Earth. It was Tidbinbilla that was the main receiving station for Voyager at the time of her closest encounter with Neptune. There was intense excitement as Voyager approached first Neptune, then Triton.
I think it was right about that time, within a second or two. 07.
The 27 antennas of the Very Large Array in Socorro, New Mexico played an important role. But the experimenters who use changes in the radio signal as Voyager flies behind planets and moons to determine what kind of atmosphere is out there also wanted extra receiving capacity. The answer was a new and very valuable link in the global network. CNN correspondent Taylor Henry has a special report from Japan.
It was an historic moment in international space exploration. Japanese and American scientists teamed up at the Yasuda Space Center about 125 miles northwest of Tokyo, using its giant antenna to receive and monitor one of a pair of radio signals coming from Voyager 2.
Communication is going very well, so we are using very close communication.
Scientists maintain communications by way of open phone lines between all 3 monitoring stations and NASA's command post at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. Yasuda received Voyager's S-band signal, while the other signal, the X-band, was picked up in Australia. Scientists watched closely as the spacecraft sailed over Neptune's North Pole, disappeared behind the planet, causing a visual blackout, and much to the relief of everyone present, emerged as expected on the other side, sending back more signals. The data was recorded onto magnetic tape and timed by an atomic clock. Scientists will examine the recorded changes in the strength and frequency of the radio signals, changes caused by their being bent or refracted through Neptune's atmosphere. The findings, expected to begin coming in a matter of days, will reveal much about the planet's atmosphere, including what it's made of, its temperature, and location of clouds.
Facilities like Yasuda opened less than 5 years ago. The leaders of Japan's young and rapidly growing space program hope to become major world players in space, their role in Voyager's encounter with Neptune now serving as a big milestone. Taylor Henry, CNN at the Yasuda Space Center, Japan.
The radio science experiments went flawlessly, and experimenters at JPL say the Japanese data will prove essential to understanding Voyager's discoveries. Like their Japanese colleagues, they hope it's just another milestone in ever greater global cooperation. The end result of all this process is more and more data flowing back into JPL, revealing Neptune's true colors. Carl Sagan and Sidney Poitier got together to discuss some of the intriguing questions that sometimes get lost in the high technology and jargon of big science.
One question, Carl. The color of this impressive, majestic-looking sphere, the color, it's blue.
Yes.
Why is it blue?
There's 2 reasons why Neptune is blue. It's a very lovely, austere kind of blue to me. One reason, part of the reason, is the same reason that the Earth's sky is blue. And this just has to do with the scattering of light by air. Light of all colors comes from the sun. The blue light is preferentially bounced around by the air molecules. And so that makes the sky blue in all directions. The red light doesn't get bounced around, and so it preferentially comes through. That's why when you see the sun setting, the blue light gets scattered out of the beam, the red light stays in, and the sunset looks red. And the sunset should look red on any planet which has a massive atmosphere, including Neptune. The other reason that Neptune is blue is because its air is made of a different composition than ours, and it has a lot of a gas called methane, and methane actually absorbs red light, so it lets the blue light through. There's 2 different reasons why it has this beautiful color blue.
Incredible. The planet Neptune has an interior, correct, that somehow generates heat What is that? What is the composition of that interior?
You're asking hard questions, Sidney. We can only see the outside.
Yeah.
So our compositional information, direct compositional information from the light that bounces off Neptune is restricted only to the outside. We have a basic understanding of what kind of stuff there is in the universe and some very halting and preliminary understanding of how worlds form. And on the basis of that, we can calculate what the stuff ought to be deep inside. I don't have huge confidence in this because, you know, we've never been deep inside. The reason for the heat that it's giving off is that, so to say, Neptune is not yet finished being formed. When planets are formed, matter is falling in, attracted by their mutual gravitational attraction. And in the case of the Earth, of course, it has long since completed its formation. But the gas giants are still gravitationally contracting. And the heat that is generated by this still slow collapse is thought to be responsible for what is radiating out from Neptune.
Triton, where is the picture of that remarkable place? This picture, it looks to me like a freeway, a nest of freeways coming together at one intersection. It seems like an X. It also seems like deep valleys running in a line,
Mm-hmm.
and then another deep valley running for apparently thousands of miles, and it crosses the other.
Mm-hmm. You see, the width of the highway is, maybe 10 miles. It's a 10-mile wide highway. So, if this is a highway, they got big cars. This is complex ice geology. It's a low-temperature world overlaid with many different kinds of ice: methane ice, nitrogen ice, probably some ordinary water ice as well, although we haven't been able to find any yet. And there are energy sources inside.
Mm-hmm.
And so things get melted. Pieces of the crust collapse. There are the hot place in the local spring, summer, makes huge amounts of ice vaporize and rush away to the cold part of the world. And that cold world gets enormous amounts of snow on it, these exotic snows, methane and nitrogen. And that uncovers material over where the snow evaporated from. And that happens on short periods of time. The season on Triton is about 100 years. The year for seasons is about 100 years long.
There are countless numbers of radio waves, sizes, frequencies, etc. in the atmosphere, everywhere, not only within the atmosphere of the Earth, but beyond the Earth, radio waves and sounds. How is it possible that particular frequency is not weakened, is not polluted, is not interfered with? It travels an absolute course to the brain of Voyager 2 and speaks to it.
That's right.
Exactly as you intended.
Beautifully said. That's exactly right. It's literally true. And there are sources of interference, and the signal is fantastically weak. Much weaker the signal the spacecraft sends back to us, because it just has this little antenna and this feeble power source. We have very large telescopes, and we can put enormously powerful transmitters, and so it can hear us in a way better than we can hear it, but we're very good at hearing it as well. It knows to listen to certain frequencies and not to others, and we shout loud. That's sort of the answer to your question.
Yes, it's mind-boggling to us lay people when...
To me too. To me too. It's nothing about... I mean, I understand the physics of it, but that doesn't in any way take away the wonder.
The wonder, that's the phrase, the wonder of it.
And Carl Sagan will introduce us to the other end of the communications bridge, Voyager 2, after this.
Ready for this? I have a friend in France who'll put you up at his chateau.
Listen, old boy, I know this chap in London who can get you in to see the Queen.
Yan Ching and I go way back. He'll send you a Ming vase straight from China.
It's the best restaurant in Milan. Just use my name and it's manja all the way, huh?
No one else has better connections overseas. AT&T International Long Distance.
These magazines cover a number of different and very important topics, like your family's health and nutrition, fashion, cooking, and decorating. Family Circle covers all these topics and more. So you can either read all these, or you can read Family Circle.
Subscribe to Family Circle now and you'll get 17 issues, 5 more than most other women's magazines, for only $15.97. So call 800-257-1234. That's 800-257-1234.
I'm an old-fashioned guy. I'm amazed what people call cheeseburgers these days. A piece of meat and some cheese, not like Wendy's big classic with cheese. A quarter pound of fresh beef, double cheese, double tomatoes, lots of everything on a big toasted Kaiser bun. My daughter Wendy said, Dad, it's like a major totally happening cheeseburger. That's exactly what I would have said.
Now, try Wendy's Big Classic with double cheese, double tomatoes, and lots of everything else.
We go above and beyond just like you, above and beyond what we have to do.
I'm a Prudential representative. When I talk to people about CDs and mutual funds, they're surprised at the wide range of investment opportunities I can offer.
You work hard, so do we, to make what you've worked for a reality. The Rock, the Prudential, above and beyond.
In the beginning, there was peace. Now we are a world plagued by conflict and war. Our survival is at stake. Is it time for all nations to declare war on war? Waging Peace. Beginning September 11th, only on CNN.
The men and women of Voyager have been working with this spacecraft for more than a dozen years, tweaking its performance to ever greater achievements. And when you live with something over a long period of time, you tend to endow it with a personality.
This is it. This is an exact replica of the Voyager spacecraft. As you can see, it would fill a good-sized living room, except when it's launched, all of these booms and projections are folded up to fit inside the rocket, and then in interplanetary space, they open up. Voyager is a fairly intelligent robot. It has an onboard computer that's constantly being reprogrammed by commands from Earth, but it knows to do a lot of things by itself, and it also knows if it gets into trouble to call home for help. The whole spacecraft is powered by this thing. A radioactive power source contains plutonium. The plutonium decays, makes heat. The heat is converted into electricity, and the electricity powers everything else. In here are the electronics, the onboard computers, the tape recorder. All of the instructions that the spacecraft receives come in through this great dish-shaped antenna. And all of the data that it acquires is radioed back to Earth through the same antenna. Over here is a kind of very elaborate license plate that we'll talk about later. These are two of a number of hydrazine thrusters. They are tiny rockets that can reorient the spacecraft to make precision photography possible, for example. Here is a boom on which there are many science instruments. This is the scan platform. A lot of the major instruments are on it, and it can move. Let me see if I can make it move. It can move in various directions, so It's what permits the spacecraft to take a picture of that world and then take a picture of that world. These are the two cameras that have been responsible for the tens of thousands of magnificent pictures that Voyager has returned from Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Voyager was pelted with debris as it went through the outer fringes of planetary rings. It ran the risk of being fried by planetary radiation belts. It's on its backup receiver. There was a time when its scan platform got dangerously stuck. There's so little light at Uranus and Neptune that Voyager, designed to work closer to the sun, ran the risk of returning pictures that were too dark or too blurry. And yet, because of the human intelligence of its controllers back here on Earth at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and because of the robotic intelligence in the spacecraft, Voyager flies on. Our eyes and ears and a dozen other senses that we weren't born with, acting in our stead in a realm of the solar system too distant and too dangerous for us personally to travel to, at least yet. And Voyager is also, with its golden phonograph record, our emissary to the stars.
I feel elated about it. It's like watching a child that you gave birth to grow up and mature and suddenly solve some of the major problems of the world, and it makes you feel very proud and wonderful.
Voyager's become an elderly relative. The cameras are failing in health. They'll make it through this encounter, but they probably wouldn't make it through another one. And that's sort of like having an elderly relative that you're caring about and watching fail and feeling kind of bad about.
Anytime Voyager aches, I ache. When we see little hiccups and we have to figure out ways of sending a small amount of medication to the spacecraft, it's fun to be able to do that in a way that the spacecraft continues to operate as it should.
Well, imagine this machine. Each Voyager has the equivalent of 5 million electronic parts. Now that's equivalent to about 2,000 color Sony television sets. Can you imagine expecting 2,000 television sets to perform for 12 years? No, it's gone, I think, beyond the call of duty.
Wednesday night, TBS remembers World War II with George C. Scott. Patton, 10:15 Eastern on TBS Wednesday night. U.S. Olympic Gold is brought to you by Chrysler Motors. Satisfaction is your right, and we intend to see you get it. Every Saturday, travel the fine line between glory
Lane 2, it's very close.
and disaster.
She got a little early there.
The most dedicated and dynamic athletes from every corner of the world battle head-to-head on U.S. Olympic Gold, a TBS Sports exclusive, following Braves baseball each and every Saturday, only on TBS.
You know, the next great leap forward in the car industry won't happen in Detroit. It's happening right now at our dealerships. In overall product quality and dealer service, Chrysler has the highest customer satisfaction of any American car company, and that's 2 years in a row. That says a lot about the way our dealers treat you and the way they treat your car. Service is your right. We intend to see that you get it.
You may not have the time, like the folks in Hidden Valley, to raise your own lettuce or grow your own carrots. But if you just slow down a minute, you could make the same homemade salad dressing the folks here do. All it takes is a little milk, mayonnaise, and our special blend of herbs and spices to make creamy, fresh, homemade Hidden Valley Ranch. You may not live in Hidden Valley, but it's real easy to get a taste of it.
Next Sunday on Award Theater, TBS remembers World War II, a war that would push men to their limits.
Has the thought ever occurred to you that our captain might be unbalanced?
A war that would test their courage and spirit.
You'll all hang for conspiracy to mutiny.
Van Johnson, Fred McMurray, and Humphrey Bogart in an unforgettable performance. The Kane Mutiny, the Award Theater presentation. 10:35 Eastern on TBS next Sunday.
back in the midst of one of the most unusual wrap parties ever given in honor of the men and women of Voyager by the Planetary Society. We've been hearing recollections of past mission managers, but the tradition of achievement kept alive here and at other NASA centers and universities across this country and around this planet also looks to the future. Carl Sagan tells us where some of those missions might go.
With Voyager 2 at Neptune, every planet in the solar system, except tiny Pluto, has now been examined by a robot explorer from Earth. We shortly will begin the second phase of planetary exploration, in-depth studies of the most interesting worlds. Magellan, now on its way to Venus, will see through the opaque clouds and map its hidden surface in unprecedented detail. In October, Galileo will be launched to Jupiter. When in orbit around the giant planet, it will make many close passes to its moons. And earlier, drop off a probe which for the first time will enter into the atmosphere of a giant planet. Awaiting approval from Congress is a trailblazing dual mission called Cassini. One spacecraft, instead of flying by a comet at 75 kilometers a second, which is all we were able to do when Halley's Comet last came by, will rendezvous with the comet, follow it around the sun, and observe its true nature. And the second spacecraft, Cassini, to be built jointly with the European Space Agency, will orbit the planet Saturn and drop a probe into the organic, rich atmosphere of its moon Triton, parachuting down to the surface to examine the hydrocarbon oceans, if they really exist. The other leading spacefaring nation, besides the United States, is the Soviet Union, with many exploratory firsts to its credit. The Soviets have announced that the exploration of Mars is to be the focus of their future missions. And in his July 20th speech, President Bush announced a similar focus for the United States.
A manned mission to Mars.
Both the Soviets and the Americans have announced eventual flights of men and women to Mars, a world of wonders. Many people have suggested, to save costs and to engage the superpowers in a great shared endeavor, that they explore Mars together. Cooperation could begin slowly to test the waters. The American Mars Observer satellite, due to be launched in 1992, is now planned to relay data from the Soviet Mars Balloon and Mars Lander mission, due to be launched in 1994. The two nations might cooperate with roving vehicles and missions to return samples of Mars back to Earth by the end of the century. And then, perhaps by the first decade of the new millennium, a joint expedition of Americans and Soviets, and Europeans and Japanese and others, to Mars, the first footfall on another planet in human history, the opening of a new age of exploration and discovery. For the near term at least, the next focus of human exploration will be the planet Mars.
And the party celebrating the successful completion of Voyager 2's mission to the outer planets continues. But it's a party of mixed emotions. As you look through this crowd, you'll see lots of smiling faces and happy talk, but you'll also find scientists off in corners by themselves, very serious expressions, reminiscing on the 12 years of the Grand Tour mission. And we'll be back with more on Voyager 2 and the Gala Party after this.
On TBS, the 12 most dangerous men in the U.S. Army on a one-way mission behind enemy lines. Charles Bronson, Lee Marvin, as TBS remembers World War II with The Dirty Dozen, 10:15 Eastern on TBS Monday night.
Three Guys Plumbing.
Well, hair clogs at their worst.
It's for you.
No other drain opener works better than Liquid Plumber.
Liquid Plumber? Never heard of him. Never heard of him?
Call Liquid Plumber first.
Formula 409 spray cleaner puts greasy dirt on the run before you start to wipe.
409 puts grease on the run.
Introducing the amazing Laser Beam wristwatch. Destined to become a legend in its own time, we believe it will soon be one of the most sought-after watches in history. However, as part of a special publicity campaign, we will send you one of these amazing new Laser Beam luxury watches. Not for the hundreds of dollars you might expect, but for only $10. But to get your amazing Laser Beam wristwatch for only $10, you must act now.
To order, call 1-800-257-1234.
Rattle and roll. Get down to Toyota and shake your dealer's head.
Is handshaking deal making on a great selection of Toyota Camrys. Factory incentives, extra value package of options make it the best time to deal on Camry. Family Circle's Family Car of the Year is now the deal of the year. It's year-end cleanup. Shake on a Toyota Camry deal and get quality without compromise.
Come on, shake, rattle and roll. Toyota. It's a team with a capital yes. TBS. Our stars. You're fitting. We've got America sitting pretty. Entertainment with a capital yes. TBS. You and me. So on the scene. No, we're sitting pretty.
Here at JPL today, we're celebrating Voyager's glorious past. But here's Carl Sagan to tell us a little about what Voyager's future might hold.
Neptune is Voyager's last port of call. There are no more planets beyond Neptune, at least in this solar system. But Voyager's work is far from done. For example, a few months from now, it has the opportunity to look back over its shoulder and photograph many of the planets in the solar system, including some of its previous ports of call. In one opportunity, next March, the planets will be spread out like jewels on velvet. Saturn and Jupiter over there to the right of the sun. To the left of the sun, you can see Mars. That's the red one. Venus. And then over there at the extreme left, you see that little blue dot? That's us. That's the Earth. That's home. A tiny point of light set against the background spangle of the Milky Way. If photographs were taken at much greater distances, the Earth would become fainter and fainter until lost altogether. Long after the last pictures are taken, long after the radioactive power source runs down and Voyager can no longer call home, long after she's broken entirely free of the gravitational shackles that bind her to the sun, the spacecraft will press on at 1,000,000 miles a day. Nothing can stop her. About 20,000 years from now, she's destined to complete her long goodbye to the solar system and make for the open sea of interstellar space. Only then will phase 2 of her mission begin. It was known from the start that the Voyager spacecraft would leave the solar system. It was destined to wander forever in the dark between the stars. So NASA invited a group of us to design a message to be affixed to the spacecraft. The message was intended for any interstellar spacefaring civilization which might one day encounter Voyager. As each of the 2 Voyagers left Earth for the planets and the stars, it took with it this message, a phonograph record encased in a golden mirrored jacket. The record contains greetings in 59 human languages.
Hello from the children of planet
And 1
Earth.
whale language. A 12-minute sound essay of the evolution of life on Earth. 118 pictures and 90 minutes of music, the Earth's greatest hits.
east and west, classical and folk, including a Navajo night chant, a Pygmy girl's initiation song, a Japanese shakuhachi piece, Bach, Beethoven, and Chuck Berry singing Johnny Be Good. Space is so empty that there's virtually no chance that Voyager will ever enter another solar system, even if every star in the sky is accompanied by planets. The instructions on the record jacket, written in scientific hieroglyphics, can be read and the contents of the record understood only if alien beings, sometime in the remote future, find Voyager in the depths of interstellar space. Escaping from the sun, the Voyagers will circle the center of the Milky Way galaxy forever. And forever is a very long time. So maybe Voyager will, in the far future, be approached by some unimaginably alien civilization. They would wonder what creatures had sent this primitive craft. Being much better scientists and engineers than we, otherwise they'd never find the spacecraft, they would have no difficulty decoding the record cover, examining the pictures, listening to the sounds and music. We do not know how much they would understand.
Au-dessus des étangs, au-dessus des vallées, des montagnes.
They would recognize the tentativeness of our society, the mismatch between our technology and our wisdom. Had we destroyed ourselves since launching Voyager, they would wonder, or had we gone on to greater things? Or perhaps the record will never be intercepted. Then, when humans have become extinct or evolved into other beings, when everything we know and love is gone, when even the continents have unrecognizably changed, indeed when the Earth itself is reduced by the sun's evolution to a charred cinder, Voyager will fly on.
Next, join Archie, Edith, Gloria, and the Meathead for Laugh-A-Minute Antics on All in the Family, tonight on TBS, cable's most popular network.
Every night while you're sleeping, UPS is maintaining its status as the only company that delivers overnight to every address coast to coast. And we guarantee it with UPS Next Day Air. And because we're so efficient, we'll still do it for up to half what other companies charge, which is guaranteed to cause our competition some sleepless nights. UPS, we run the tightest ship in the shipping business.
An exclusive TNT return engagement. From the Wright brothers to the right stuff, the story of our quest to conquer the skies. The defeats were crushing, the follies memorable, the victories legend. Witness it all only on TNT when Robert Vaughn hosts a TNT exclusive, the triumphant 4-part saga, Reaching for the Skies, returning in September.
One of the great advantages of doing business with a firm like Schwab is that you're dealing with professionals across the whole country. They're creating financial advantages for the individual investor.
Many of our customers transfer their other brokerage accounts to Schwab because we make it easy. We help the customer complete the right form, they sign them, and we do the rest. It's that simple.
Call today for free information about Schwab services. 800-257-1234.
Henry Fonda, Charles Bronson, and an all-star cast. The Battle of the Bulge. 8:05 Eastern on TBS, Thursday night.
The spirit of discovery that distinguished this mission and captivated the world will live on, just like the spacecraft as it sails outwards. For over a decade, it's been like having television cameras with Christopher Columbus as he reached new shores. And there are new explorers waiting in the wings. So this is a time for renewed vision and celebration. And in fact, I'll be going down to the mall to join in. I hope you will come celebrate with me. Charles, how are you doing down there?
For the past hour, the men and women of Voyager have been celebrating a job well done. Successes at Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and now Neptune. There's happiness, but also just a touch of sadness as they say goodbye to their baby as their baby leaves the solar system.
3 weeks from now, when all of the news media have left, we're looking at pictures of Neptune receding, shrinking in the distance, and we know we're leaving it. We're all going to be sad. We've decided we're not going to jump off cliffs, but this is going to be quite a change from the elation of the encounter now to the realization the grand tour is over.
Many wonderful things have happened to the whole system since we've launched, in that the spacecraft systems and the computer systems on board have been able to point the spacecraft more accurately, to hold the cameras still a lot longer than we envisioned when we launched, and we didn't really expect to be able to get quite this good a quality of image at this juncture, but due a lot of hard work by a lot of people, it's made all that really possible. It's been magnificent.
As say the Russian, хороший пример. Good example how to design mission, how to make spacecraft, and how to work with this spacecraft. This is really good example, and we, and you and we Soviets and everybody should follow this excellent example.
It's going to be kind of strange to leave that family that I've been associated with for the past 12 years. I'll never forget it, and I have no regrets of having been involved in such a mission. But I suspect the time will come when I'll look back on my scientific career and say the highlight was definitely the Voyager program.
I don't want to say goodbye to Voyager.
I like the idea that it was our generation, and I mean very broadly when I say generation, that sent something out that is going to be traversing our galaxy long after the sun has gone into its red giant phase and consumed the Earth. I like that. I'm really proud of that.
Fare thee well. Tell the universe that there were creatures such as us who were deeply flawed, very stupid at times, but also capable of making music and of feeling love and awe and respect for the vast universe that surrounds us.
Maybe it's really Voyager that's saying farewell to us, because it'll be here long after we're all gone.
Good luck. You've had problems, you've had memory loss, you've had a little arthritis in your pointing devices, you've had a little problem in hearing, but you go on without us now. And I wish we could see the things that you'll see in the future.
I would say thank you very much for all you've shown me and for helping us all to see the great beauty that exists.
Every human culture
has rites of passage. They mark the transition from one stage of life to another. We are gathered here to celebrate Voyager's rite of passage. A machine designed, built, and operated right here at JPL has broken free of the sun's gravity, explored most of the worlds of the solar system, and is now on its way to the great dark ocean of interstellar space. It carries a phonograph record of greetings, pictures, and the world's great music to any beings who might one day encounter it. The men and women responsible are gathered here. They are heroes of human accomplishment. Their deeds will be remembered in the history books. Our remote descendants may live on some of the worlds first revealed to us by Voyager. If so, those descendants will look back upon us as we look on Christopher Columbus. Voyager left a planet blighted and imperiled by nuclear weapons, climatic change, poverty, injustice. The species that launched her was a danger to itself. But Voyager has given us a stirring cosmic perspective. We have seen evidence of the destruction and reconstitution of worlds. We have witnessed the early building blocks of life assembling themselves. But we have found not a trace, not a hint of life itself. Voyager reminds us of the rarity and preciousness of what our planet holds, of our responsibility to preserve life on Earth. If we are capable of such grand, long-term, benign, visionary, high-technology endeavors as Voyager, can we not use our technological gifts and long-term vision to put this planet right? Perhaps the Neptune flyby marks not just Voyager's rite of passage, but the beginning of our own, the binding up of the peoples and nations and generations to take care of one another, to cherish the Earth, and bravely to venture forth in the footsteps of Voyager to the planets and the stars.
A big man, and you're gonna be the leader of a big old band. Many people coming from miles around to hear you rock when the sun go down. Maybe someday your name will be back in lights and Johnny be good tonight. Everybody, I say go, go Johnny, go, go. Voyager, way out there past Neptune. Go, Voyager, go. Showing a mini moon. Hey, the place was jumping, going round and round. We're reeling and rocking. What a crazy sound. You know they never stop rocking till the moon went down. Oh, it sounds so sweet. Had to take me a chance. Rose out of my seat. Just had to dance. Started patting my feet, clapping my hands. Well, the joint started rocking, reeling round, reeling and rocking. Crazy sound. They never stop rocking till the moon went down. Oh, it sounds so sweet. Had to take me a chance. Rose out of my seat, just had to dance. Started patting my feet, mumping my hands. Well, the dog started rocking, round and round, reeling and rocking. Crazy sound, it never stopped rocking till the moon went down. It was 12 o'clock, and the place was packed. Front door was locked, but the side was cracked. When the police knocked, both doors went back. But it kept on rocking, round and round, reeling and rocking, crazy sound, reeling and rocking. Till the moon went, whoa, 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 sounds so sweet. Take me a chance, out of my seat, had to dance, pat my feet, clapping my hands. Whoa, go Voyager. New Jersey Turnpike in the wee hours I was rolling slow.